Something unusual is happening right now, and it didn't start with a big announcement or a new release. It started with one quiet moment between Maurice Sam and Pearl Watts that people almost ignored at first, but then someone pointed it out, and suddenly everything changed, because once you see it you can't unsee it, and now that single silent moment is breaking the internet in a way nobody expected. Cold face, that moment is not loud, it's not dramatic, there's no shouting, no intense music, no obvious emotional explosion. It's just a pause, a look, a stillness. And yet that exact silence is what is carrying more weight than entire scenes filled with dialogue, and fans are now going back again and again, trying to understand why that one moment feels so different. Flushed face, what's making everyone rewatch is not just curiosity, it's confusion, because people are asking themselves, how can something so simple feel so powerful? How can two people just looking at each other create this level of tension and emotion without saying a word? And the more they watch, the more they realize that this is not accidental loudly crying face, that discovery is what has changed everything, because now viewers are no longer watching their scenes the same way, they are analyzing them, breaking them down, focusing on every detail, every expression, every pause, and what they are finding is a hidden connection that has been there all along. Cold face, the hidden connection people are talking about, is not something you can easily explain with words, because it lives in the space between actions. It's in how Maurice Sam slightly delays his reaction, like he's processing something deeper, and how Pearl Watts responds with a subtle shift in expression that feels natural and immediate, like she understands without needing explanation. And this is what is driving fans crazy, because it feels real, it doesn't feel performed, it doesn't feel forced, it feels like two people actually experiencing a moment together, and that level of realism is rare, which is why it's getting so much attention right now. Flushed face, some viewers are saying that after noticing this they had to go back and watch multiple scenes just to confirm if it was a one-time thing or a consistent pattern, and what they found shocked them, because that same energy, that same silent communication keeps appearing again and again. Loudly crying face, this is where the idea of a hidden pattern comes in, because it's no longer about one viral clip. It's about a repeated style, a way of acting that both of them to share, where they rely less on words and more on presence, more on timing, more on subtle emotional shifts. Cold face people are now pointing out how their eye contact works, because it's not just about looking at each other, it's about what happens during that look, the tension, the softness, the hesitation, the understanding, all happening in real time. And that's what makes it feel alive. Astonished face, another detail fans are noticing, is how they react when they are not the focus, because even in the background, even when the camera is not centered on them, they remain fully engaged, fully in character, and those small background reactions are now being called the real performance. Flushed face, and once you notice that, you start to see everything differently, because now every scene feels layered, like there's the obvious story happening on the surface, and then there's a deeper emotional story happening underneath. Loudly crying face, that deeper layer is what people ignored before, because it doesn't demand attention, it doesn't shout, it doesn't try to stand out, but now that it has been noticed, it has become the main thing everyone is talking about. Cold face, the internet can't ignore it anymore, because every new clip that surfaces adds more proof to the same idea, that what makes Maurice Sam and Pearl Watts special is not just what they say, but how they exist within a scene. Astonished face, some fans even described it as emotional synchronization, because of how their reactions seem to align perfectly, like one person feels something and the other responds instantly without needing cues, and that kind of timing is not easy to fake. Flushed face, and this is why people are suddenly talking about them again. Even those who were not paying attention before are now joining the conversation, because once the pattern is pointed out it becomes visible to everyone. Loudly crying face, what makes this even more interesting is that nothing new actually happened. There was no new movie, no new interview, no big announcement. This is all coming from people revisiting old content and seeing it with new eyes. Cold face, that's what makes it powerful, because it shows that the value was always there, it just wasn't fully recognized until now, and that realization is what is making this trend feel different from the usual ones. Astonished face, another reason this moment is hitting so hard is because it challenges what people think good acting is, because instead of big dramatic expressions, it shows that subtle controlled performances can have even more impact. Flushed face, some viewers are even saying that this discovery has changed how they watch Nollywood in general, because now they are paying attention to details they used to ignore and looking for that same level of depth in other actors. And right now Maurice Sam and Pearl Watts are becoming the center of that conversation, because they represent this style so clearly and consistently cold face. Theirs, also the way they build emotion, gradually, instead of jumping into it, suddenly, which makes everything feel more natural, more believable and more relatable, and that packing is what keeps viewers emotionally invested. Astonished face. Another hidden detail people are now noticing is how they use stillness, because instead of always moving or reacting visibly, they allow moments to breathe, they allow silence to sit. And that stillness is what creates tension. Flushed face. That tension is what pulls viewers in, because it feels like something is about to happen even when nothing is happening, and that anticipation is what makes their scenes so engaging. Loudly crying face. Some fans even said that watching them feels like watching real-life conversations, where not everything is said out loud, where meaning is often hidden in pauses and expressions, and that realism is what makes their performances stand out. Cold face. At the same time, people are questioning whether this is intentional or natural, because if it's intentional it shows a high level of skill, and if it's natural it makes it even more impressive. Astonished face. What's making everything louder is the fact that neither of them has explained anything, yet no breakdown, no behind-the-scenes insight, nothing, and that silence is only adding to the mystery. Flushed face. And that mystery is what keeps the conversation going, because people are trying to figure it out on their own, sharing theories, comparing scenes, and building a collective understanding of what they are seeing right now. It's clear that this is more than just a viral moment, it's a shift in perception, a moment where people collectively realize something important, and once that happens it changes everything. Cold face. Because now every time you watch Maurice, Sam, and Pearl Watts, you are not just watching the story, you are watching the details, the pauses, the looks, the silent exchanges that carry meaning. Astonished face. And that is why this one silent moment is breaking the internet. Because it opened the door to something bigger, something deeper, something that was always there but finally seen. Flushed face. After this discovery, fans are seeing them differently, not just as actors, but as performers who bring a unique style that relies on subtlety and emotional presence. Loudly crying face. And once that perspective changes, it doesn't go back, because now every performance is judged with a new level of awareness and